So it's time for another movie, and this movie is the 2021 movie Belfast. It's set in the late 60s in Northern Ireland. It's about a young boy and his working class family, and it's about his childhood and his family life in a city which is in the middle of the troubles involving sectarian violence between Protestants and Catholics, and throw in the British Army into the mix, and that's what we've got. It's semi-autobiographical. This is what I've read. Directed and written by Kenneth Branagh, and Jude Hill plays Buddy. Lewis McCaskill is Will. Katjana Bartha plays Ma, and Judi Dench is Granny. Jamie Doonan is Pa, and Kieran Hines is Pop. It's got some. It's been nominated for quite a number of awards, minor awards. The big ones are still to come, of course. So let's have a. Now, Branagh did live up until the age of 9 in Belfast, and so it's very much a fly on the wall approach to the script. Basically, we view the day-to-day events, struggles, anxieties, emotions of this family at the period in time where these troubles were a daily hindrance to normal life, and it's in black and white as well for authenticity. And they are a working class Protestant family, and some top actors in here, particularly Pop and Granny, Kieran Hines and Judi Dench. Judi Dench must be in her mid-80s now. You get immediately a feel that you're going to watch something very worthwhile here. The opening sort of gambit, it does show it in colour, the city, with building going on, cranes, etc. And then in thrust to the centre stage is the music score, and none other than Van Morrison singing. Superb. So we get plunged into a terraced street, lots of activity, children playing. It's probably summer because the dress wear reflects sort of warmth. The various people outside their houses drinking cups of tea and walking around, and parents trying to usher their kids back into the home, presuming that it's time for a meal or something. The boy, who's presumably Branagh, is about to go home. What are you after now? Anyway, the boy, his eye is caught by a crowd at the end of the street, a hostile crowd. We don't get too big a picture, but it may well be a Catholic march or two gangs on opposite sides of the religious divide, exchanging pleasantries. Branagh's direction is brilliant as he circles the boy, and you can see the expression on the child's face becoming more and more concerned and anxious capturing the moment perfectly. The silence is overtaken by a quick blast, and it suggests it might be a Molotov cocktail, and the boy's anxiety switches to panic as he screams as the Molotov cocktail explodes not far from his feet. The boy is riveted frightened to death, so that he won't move. His mother rushes from her house, grabs him. Fortunately, he's been playing with a dustbin lid and a toy sword, and she then uses the dustbin lid to protect them from a barrage of rocks that are being thrown, and they manage to get home, and the boy's told to hide under the table. Belfast, late 60s, not a pleasant place. The rampaging mob rushed down the street, smashing windows, kicking in doors and hurling abuse. One must presume that they are IRA sympathisers. A vehicle is set on fire and pushed down the street. It's carnage. Well, then we hear radio news explaining that it was Protestants targeting the few Catholics that live in Protestant areas. So, clarification, it was a Protestant group targeting Catholic homes in a predominantly Protestant area, and the following day the army arrived, and we're going back to the family as the mother explains to Granny, played by Dench, the day-to-day chat, the rapport, the Irish accents. Dench, Kieran Hines sitting on the outside loo with the door wide open. All these snippets of life at that particular time. It's truly beautiful. The boy makes a comment about the function of confession that the Catholics use, which enables them to do whatever they want because they can confess. That's a brilliant little piece of monologue. The father, he works in England, probably Liverpool, comes back at the weekend. There's an interesting snippet where the kids are being got ready to go to church. The grandparents swear by it, of course, but the parents are going to stay behind and have a chat. Hello, you're looking good now, are you? Mummy says you're looking good. Lovely. Right, sit down. We get a taste of the fanaticism of religion in this city. The language used from the pulpit that's condemning of the other side. It's very aggressive, and that of course was largely the problem, apart from the money, of course, ownership. The preacher owes, in his assault on language, his preaching owes a lot to the likes of Ian Paisley in the methods that he's employing to frighten the flock. Branner's direction is brilliant. After we have this furore and rant by this preacher, he then finishes and moves on briefly at the end by saying, and now money. And then of course we have the collection, the ritualistic collection of the money from all the sinners. Branner is taking every opportunity to lighten the mood. We see a situation where there's some dancing in the street after we hear some footage of Day interviewing Wilson on BBC TV, Robin Day, about the deteriorating civil rights situation in Northern Ireland. And then we get this sort of great sort of R&B swing music, no vocal, although I suspect it's still Morrison, and Pa dancing in the street. It's absolutely beautiful. Pa receives a visit from a local leader, Protestant leader. He's more like a sort of gangster, leaning on him to become involved in the cleansing of the area of Catholics. And Pa is somewhat reluctant to go in on this tactic. We then witness a discussion between the parents. He's wanting to move away. He sees the opportunities of possibly going to Australia and as a tradesman, starting a new life. She's ingrained in the Belfast way, born and bred, very reluctant to pull up roots. The boys listen from upstairs. And another glimpse into what goes on at school. I think this is primary, upper primary. The teacher delivers the results to their progress tests and allocates seating based on the results, so the best students are at the front and the worst are at the back. And Buddy, he's been moved up to third with his 72%. And then we swift back home. The toilet outside is used as a chair, and Buddy's in it, listening to his grandfather. Buddy's talking with his grandfather about young girls, and grandfather gives his sort of two-penny with his wife, just a stone's throw away, chipping in to curb his male enthusiasm. Granny gives Buddy a threepenny bit to go and buy some sweeties, and as he walks off down the road we start up yet another piece of brilliance from Van Morrison, Dark Side of the Street. Oh, it's such a fucking wonderful little film this is. And the barbed wire, which is in evidence everywhere, ruining the sort of play experience for the children. A member of the family, I think it's an uncle, receives a punch in the face from the guy who warned Pa about making the right decision to join in with the activities to cleanse the area of Catholics. And it's rather brutal, to the point, in full view of the mother and Bud. These sort of paramilitary groups how they go about their business in recruiting goes right down to the young teenagers and primary gangs, joining gangs with secret sort of messages, and Buddy gets targeted by a young girl to join. Buddy and his grandfather is keeping an eye on the homework, and he looks at Buddy's homework, his maths, and points out that if his digits have a slight imperfection, he can actually spread his bet, so to speak, with regard to his answers by saying, well, that's not a 7, it's a 1. That's not a 6, it's a 2. And the boy then confronts his grandfather and says, well, isn't that a form of cheating? Surely there's only one answer. To which his grandfather responds, if that was the truth, if there's only one answer, then why are we having all this unrest in the city? That's a brilliant piece of writing. The right answer is subjective, not objective, when it comes to most things in life. So many little messages in this movie which is so great. And the music, we've had One Love, and now we've got Jackie Wilson Said by Maren Morrison, and little Buddy's now being promoted up to 2 after taking his grandfather's advice. And his mother receives another letter, which is probably to do with debt collection. It's immaculate. It's an absolutely tremendous little scene where Kieran Hines serenades Judi Dench, and they have a little dance, and their grandson looks up at them with a huge grin on his face. But it's absolutely epitomises what a beautiful movie this is. Buddy gives the girl he's got a crush on a little flower, and then the other girl, the older one, is trying to get Buddy to steal chocolate from the local shop. The two have to make a bolt for it as the shopkeeper Singh spots them in the act. And after fleeing, they then discuss why Buddy took the Turkish Delight instead of the flake, both of which I consumed vast quantities as a child. Apparently Turkish Delight not that popular. Well, it was certainly popular with me. He comes home early, and Buddy arrives at home to find his parents arguing the toss over a letter that his mother wrote to the taxman when she received the letter, saying basically nothing, and she assumed that the bill had been now finished. But her angry response led to another letter saying that they're going to they issued another invoice for back taxes, and somewhat angry that the letter that his wife wrote has provoked this re-evaluation. Father's working near London, but we meet the grandparents, Father and Buddy. He's talking about another new contract for 2 years, building a hospital, which prompts his father to tell him that he's got to go into hospital for some lung problem as a result of working in Leicester. grandpa was a coal miner. He's obviously got the lung disease from working underground. Another brief meeting between Pa and the gangster, which he's duly called. Thus, he's still adamant he's not going to join in with their activities. Branner's often placing the camera at sort of street level so that we see the shoes and the socks. I suppose it's supposed to emphasise really the fact of the working class aspect to it. Branner has also used black and white TV and showed some movies that were around at the time on TV. We saw John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart and Lee Marvin, and now we've got High Noon with Gary Cooper. Also the police call round to talk to Buddy about his thieving from Singh's sweet shop. Such a clever filmmaker, Branner. So we have mother and father on the phone discussing staying in Belfast or leaving at the same time that Grace Kelly and Gary Cooper are debating whether he's going to stay or leave as the clock ticks towards 12 o'clock in High Noon. Absolutely brilliant. We catch father talking with his eldest son, who's been roped into illegal activities to an extent, and then another chat with both boys when they're looking at a globe and father's trying to sell the idea of going to Sydney. They're talking with her sister, I guess, about the notion of leaving Belfast, and the sister comes up with this note in history about the fact that they're born to leave. Well, otherwise there wouldn't be any pubs around the world. And of course, immigrants, Irish immigrants, well, the two are joined at the hip. And then the cherry on the top of the cake, Judi Dench, slightly pickled, singing at the top of her voice. Though that was her singing. But we're moving on now to the hospital, taking her husband on the bus. An emotional roller coaster of a scene. Pa's got the opportunity for promotion, free accommodation. He's trying to tempt his wife, and she delivers her sort of community, love all around, family, wrapping round, looking after each other, neighbourly love, neighbourly companionship, family commitment, and points out that a move away, it's never going to be like that. It's really raw. As she leaves the airport bus, he looks back at his wife in the middle of the street with Buddy and his ball, and a rendition of another classic from Van. There's lots of really tremendous messaging from the elders to the youngsters about true to yourself, about a sense of morality, being humble, learning how things are, and sustaining you through life's messages. It's beautifully put together. Beautiful scene on the bus with Judi Dench and Buddy talking about films, not films, films. And also, as in the previous scene, the discussion about are they going to leave or not is on everyone's mind. Her husband is in the hospital, emphysema, so her life is very uncertain now, and even more so with the possibility that the son and family might leave. It's brilliantly sensitive. Dench is she's a true professional. She doesn't have to say anything. She just moves her head, sighs, and she just communicates so much with her non-verbal. And that sort of slight smile of apprehension delivered perfectly. They're all at the cinema now, apart from Pop, and they're watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang with Dick Van Dyke, and it's truly sensational fantasy. Christmas, table football, new novels, toy guns, paper hats, smiles, happiness. He's captured it all as Branner. They broach leaving with Buddy, and he becomes completely hysterical about it and defiant that he doesn't want to leave. It's very emotional. So some more Morrison. We skip forward 3 months post-Christmas. The couple have given themselves till Easter, delaying the inevitable need to make a decision. We catch up with Buddy. The girl has said that he's in now, the gang, and he joins a rather aggressive sort of group with mufflers on, who are going to Catholic land. A store is sieged, front window smashed in, and rampant stealing from the school. And Buddy brings home some washing powder. Mother quickly returns him to the store. There's bedlam, and both he and the older girl are giving a right dressing down. The army arrive. Mother's caught up in the storm, and clearly it's becoming more dangerous by the second. We get a standoff with the thuggish leader using Mother and Buddy as shields in an attempt to escape the clutches of the army. Then Father arrives and lays down the gauntlet. It's like a standoff. And then we get the music to I Knew. The thug draws a gun, Pa throws a brick. It's so accurate, because we'd seen that earlier with an apple in retelling of William Tell, but this time it's for real, and he hits his target. The gun is lost from his hand, and next minute the children, Buddy and Mother, have fled, and this thug's been arrested by the army. This incident, where the danger was ratcheted up, has tipped Mother over the edge. She tells her sons and her husband it's time to pack and get out. An affirmative yes from Pop, who's in the hospital. His days are numbered, but his message is to get out, confirming the decision being the correct one. So to the burial of the laid out corpse in the front room, the men sitting around. Oh, dear, is this not a familiar sight? Then at the graveside, the typical sermon. And then at the post event following the burial, there's this tremendous everlasting love. And young Buddy sitting watching his parents reenact their teenage dancing days to the sound of everlasting love. Pure joy. Buddy gives a gift to his love, his first love, and then asks his father about possibly this being the one, and reserves, points out that she's a Catholic. Then his father delivers a reply that is free of any sort of religious, bigoted prejudice. Outstanding. And then the moment where the family departs to the airport and Granny passes on the message, don't look back, as she returns now alone to her house. This is Boiling Point, directed by Philip Barattini. He's also the writer, and in the cast, Stephen Graham, lead role, Andy Jones, Vinette Robertson plays Carly, Alex Feetham plays Beth, can't remember, Jason Fleming, Alistair, Skype. It's a drama about a popular bar restaurant in East London, fashionable district, and the pressures within it, and tense Christmas time night in a top scale London eatery. Andy Jones, played by Graham, is the owner and the chef, and great performance, struggling to survive professionally and on personal terms after a few setbacks. We meet Andy as he's walking through the streets of East London, talking to his ex-wife on the phone. He seems to be in a hurry, and he's about to sort something out. We'll find out what that is. It appears Andy's missed an important date with his son through his chaotic life. He's had a routine, I guess, annual inspection for environmental health. They were picking up on the state of the place, the cleanliness. The environmental health going from staff member to staff member, picking holes wherever possible. And then he's interrupted as Andy, Stephen Graham's character, returns to the kitchen area and basically tells this guy that he needs to open up pronto. The gist of his delivery to the boss was that checks dropped and he's taken them down to a 3 from a 5, whatever that means. And he reads the riot act, and the acting is really great. Lots of F words, but he's certainly very intimidating, and he gets the passive response, yes chef, yes chef. 5 minutes into this film, 10 minutes maybe, it's clear that Andy has very little control over his life. He bounces from one crisis to another, no planning. He's always going to be sorting it out. he appears to be not sorting it out. He appears to be forgetting most of his responsibilities and then reacting when the shortfall is in front of him. So Andy, we used to see him trying to get time off because he feels rough. His second in command tells him no way. Then he goes around to do a little bit of positive reinforcement with the French lass and the West Indian, or maybe West Indian. And then he's interrupted with another call from the family, which is clearly weighing him down. We get a glimpse of a bolshy customer who feels that because he's spent 200 quid on a bottle of wine, he can treat the waitress like a piece of shit. Because they changed the waitress from the original to another. We get an insight into the collective sort of issues of running a shop like this. People arriving late, people bringing their personal problems in to work and emotionally aren't together, people having to cover for others that aren't there, disputes between staff. There's also a number of people who have different nationalities, so it's a real hodgepodge, a melting pot. And he excuses himself again, very much against the feeling of his colleague. Andy Chef does his PR with some special invites. Seems to be an issue about whether he's stolen some of the menu items from his associate friend. The table 4 is one of these restaurant guide critics. It gets burnt by a pan. One of the staff goes out for a break and buys some decks in the car park. The movie also dips into the interrelationships between the staff, the sort of leg pulling, the banter, the dynamic, the cross section, the gay waiter, the black sort of youths, the selection, the waitress staff, the catering car staff, employed by one girl, and the cookery, the people who employed to do the cooking are employed are a separate group, and one of the chefs, the female, gives a real dressing down to the chief waitress about a return dish. So the restaurant manager gets a dressing down from the sous chef. And his boss, ex-boss, finally we hear Andy borrowed or was given a loan at £200,000 and has been avoiding responding to his calls. So that's why he arrived with the food critic at the restaurant. Then, out of the blue, one of the customers, a woman, starts to feel ill. Allergic reaction. They were informed about this one not wanting peanuts or something. So Andy's previous boss, Alistair, takes the opportunity now of this girl sick, possibly through an allergic reaction to some food that shouldn't have been given to her. He's trying to get Andy to ease out Carly, his partner in this business, so that he can step in given the fact that he wants his money back for the loan. And he gets everybody together to try and track down who responsible for this girl reacting to the allergy. And then a brawl takes place as he's attacked by one of the staff for being late, lack of planning, stinking of alcohol. The scene involving Andy and Carly is absolutely brilliant. Andy's water bottles full of vodka. Carly tells him she's got to move on. He heads for the vodka. Andy's then on the phone, assuming to his ex-wife. And it's probably a call that's been repeated time and time again. The gist of it is stop drinking. The booze thrown away. The drugs, I think, thrown away. Let's start. That was the end.